The El Reno tornado was not just a storm, it was an atmospheric anomaly that broke every rule in the meteorological handbook. On May 31, 2013, the sky over central Oklahoma didn't just darken, it descended. Most tornadoes are narrow, focused drills of destruction. But this monster was different. It was a wedge so massive that observers on the ground couldn't even tell it was a tornado. To the naked eye, it looked like the horizon itself was boiling. At its peak, it spanned a terrifying 2.6 miles, 4.2 kilometers, across, officially making it the widest tornado ever recorded in human history. But size wasn't the only thing that made El Reno a killer. It was its deception. Inside this gray wall of wind, a tragic game of cat and mouse was unfolding. Driving a white Chevrolet Cobalt directly into the path of this beast was Tim Samaras, a man known globally as the safest storm chaser in the business. He wasn't a thrill-seeker. He was a scientist. He had spent 20 years respecting the wind. So, why did the most cautious man in the field die that day? The answer lies in the data. The radar revealed something that human eyes missed, a sudden, violent expansion and a sub-vortex that moved with the unpredictability of a wild animal. Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and meteorologist Carl Jung were not amateurs. They were the Twistex team. They had deployed probes in front of violent tornadoes before and lived to tell the tale. They knew the escape routes. They knew the physics. But on that Friday evening, the physics changed. Today, we are going to perform a forensic autopsy of the storm. We will synchronize the time-stamped radar data from the University of Oklahoma with the recovered dashcam footage. We will track the erratic walking dead turn that the tornado made. This is not just a story about a storm. It is a story about the day the atmosphere outsmarted the experts. Oklahoma is the heart of Tornado Alley. The people here are used to sirens. But the setup on May 31 was disturbing even for veterans. The CAPE values, convective available potential energy, essentially the fuel for thunderstorms, were skyrocketing past 4,000 J/kg. The shear, the turning of winds with height, was extreme. It was a powder keg waiting for a match. By 5 p.m., the match was lit. Explosive supercells began to fire west of Oklahoma City. The roads were dangerous for another reason: traffic. It was rush hour on a Friday. Thousands of locals were trying to get home, and hundreds of storm chasers, from seasoned researchers to college kids with GoPros, clogged Highway 81. It was a chaser convergence nightmare. Tim Samaras steered his team away from the crowds. He chose Reuter Road, a quiet dirt grid road south of El Reno. His plan was standard: stay south of the storm, parallel the path, drop the sensor pod, and escape east. It was a textbook maneuver. But the book was about to be rewritten. At 6:05 p.m., the tornado touched down. Initially, it was visible. A distinct funnel, but within minutes, the rain rap began. This is the chaser's worst enemy. As the storm sucked in massive amounts of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, it wrapped a curtain of heavy rain around the tornado. Visually, the contrast vanished. The distinct funnel disappeared behind a gray wall of water. To Tim Samaras, looking out his windshield, the tornado likely appeared to be a mile or two to his north. He thought he had a safe buffer zone, but the radar tells a different story. The Pole mobile radar, parked nearby, was scanning the storm every few seconds. The data showed that while the visible funnel was narrow, the outer circulation, the invisible wind field, was expanding explosively. In less than 60 seconds, the danger zone grew from 1 mile wide to over 2 miles wide. Tim wasn't watching a tornado from a safe distance. He was driving inside the mouth of a monster that was growing faster than he could drive. Tornadoes generally move in a straight line, usually northeast. Chasers rely on this predictability, but El Reno was a multi-vortex system. Imagine a giant spinning teacup ride. The main ride is moving east. But the individual teacups, sub-vortices, are spinning wildly around the center. At 6:19 p.m., a massive sub-vortex detached from the main storm. Instead of continuing east, it made a sharp, jagged turn to the southeast. This is called a trochoidal wobble. It's an erratic, wobbling motion that is almost impossible to predict with the naked eye. This wobble put the vortex on a collision course with Reuter Road. Tim Samaras saw the change. We know this because of the recovered audio. His voice, usually calm, tightened. "We're in a bad spot," he said. He realized the road was blocked. He tried to back up. But Reuter Road was a dirt track, now turning into slick mud under the deluge. The white Chevrolet Cobalt struggled for traction. The wind began to scream, a sound often described as a million bees buzzing at once. The sub-vortex that hit the Twistex team was a tornado within a tornado. Doppler radar clocked wind speeds in this specific vortex at nearly 300 miles per hour, 480 kilometers per hour. Thought to understand this force, you have to realize that wind force is not linear, it is exponential. A 300 miles per hour wind is not twice as strong as a 150 miles per hour wind. It is 4 times more destructive. It is a force that scours asphalt off the road. It strips bark off trees. At 6:23 p.m., the vortex overtook the car. It wasn't a gradual lift. It was an instant, violent erasure. The Chevrolet Cobalt was picked up, tossed approximately 600 meters, almost half a mile, through the air. It didn't just roll, it was airborne. The car was crushed into a ball of metal unrecognizable as a vehicle. The radio channels went silent. The GPS dots on the chaser map stopped blinking. Tim, Paul, and Carl were gone. The next morning, the meteorology world was in mourning. But soon, grief turned to controversy. When the National Weather Service, NWS, issued their official report, they rated the El Reno tornado as an EF3. Public was confused. How, they asked. The radar showed 296 miles per hour winds. That's an EF5. Here lies the problem with how we measure tornadoes. The enhanced Fujita, EF, scale is based on damage, not wind speed. Because the El Reno tornado mostly churned up open wheat fields and didn't hit a well-built house directly, the damage indicators only supported an EF3 rating. It was a bureaucratic paradox. Scientifically, it was one of the most powerful winds ever measured on Earth. Officially, it was a moderate tornado. This sparked a massive debate in the scientific community that continues today. Should we rate storms based on what they hit, or what they are? The death of Tim Samaras changed storm chasing forever. Before El Reno, there was a feeling of invincibility among veterans. If you know what you're doing, you're safe. Tim proved that wrong. You can do everything right, and the atmosphere can still checkmate you. Today, chase protocols are stricter. Apps now warn chasers of rain-wrapped signatures. The bear's cage, the area close to the rain curtain, is treated with much more fear, and the data Tim died for? It wasn't lost. The Twistex team's legacy is a deeper understanding of internal pressure drops in tornadoes. Their sacrifice wasn't in vain. It helped engineers understand how to build structures that might survive these monsters in the future. As the sun set on May 31, 2013, the El Reno tornado finally lifted. It left behind a scar on the earth and a scar on the heart of the weather community. Often talk about controlling nature. We seed clouds. We build dams. We think we have mastered the elements, but events like El Reno remind us of our place. We are small. We are fragile. And we are guests on a planet that sometimes decides to remind us of its power. Tim Samaras spent his life chasing the wind. In the end, he caught the ultimate storm. Or perhaps, it caught him.